let's speak on National Second Division. The news that um, kind of took the A-League, maybe didn't take the A-League by storm, but basically the FA have opened up expressions of interest, I think that's what it is, to clubs to be in this National Second Division starting hopefully March 2023, so 13 months from now. Okay, let's go through what this is, right? So, a couple of key points. They want to make all players and all clubs professional, which is great. Don't know how they're going to do that financially, but you back them in to get it done, which is great. It provides a actual pathway for kids in this country rather than being like, oh, if you're not good for A-League academies, fuck off overseas. It's good that we can actually give a proper pathway to elite football and professional football. So I think that's really good. They want to have it. So it's 12 to 16 teams and 30 to 36 games. To me, I think they should go with 16 teams and 30 games. I think that's it. Yeah, 16 teams, 30 games. To me, that makes the most sense because you just play everyone twice, home and away, simple. No, for the integrity of the league, it's good because you have some. How do you describe it? How do you call it? You've got 30 games. Sorry, mind blank. You've got 30 games plus a final series plus cups plus Australia Cup. So we're finally going to solve this issue of not enough football being played in this country. So to me, 30 games, 16 teams is the ideal for me. The 16 clubs, I was looking through. I think I made a list. At some stage I tweeted it, so bear with. These are just clubs that, off the top of my head, I really didn't do any proper research into it. So some of the clubs. So you got South Melbourne, Melbourne Knights, Heidelberg, Apia, Marconi, Sydney Olympic, Sydney United, Wollongong, Adelaide City, Peninsula Power, Lions FC, and Perth Soccer Club. They're 12, 14 teams. South Knights, Heidelberg, Apia, Marconi, Sydney Olympic, Sydney United, Wollongong, Adelaide, Peninsula Power, Lions, and Perth. So 12 teams, so you probably need to add 4 more. There's been other clubs, so like Gold Coast Knights, potentially Brisbane City, Canberra Olympic as well. So there are a few. There are enough teams, in my opinion, for there to be a 16-team comp. There's probably about 10, 8 to 10, maybe 12 if you're really stretching it. Teams that are almost a lock, and like teams that they're fit for the National Second Division. You're looking at the likes of South Melbourne, you're looking at the likes of Apia and Marconi and these teams, right? These historic clubs within Australian football, and that have the backing both in terms of facilities and money, for all we know anyway, etc. So they're the ones that you're looking at. Now, this kind of goes back into what does this mean for the whole A-Leagues. Now, there won't be promotion relegation instantly. I actually think that's a good thing. I think if you rush it with promotion relegation, implement it straight away, you need to make sure that this league has its time to breathe and to build and to become an actual functioning thing rather than just, second division, promotion relegation, finals, here we go, everything. Like, give it time to breathe, give it time to just rest in itself and operate properly for a couple of years, maybe 2 years, and then implement promotion relegation. This is a good step. A great step in the right direction. And this will eventually solve the problems that we've got in this country regarding the A-League and the nature of it not being able to hold fans and not being able to attract new people, because what you get with a national second division and eventually promotion relegation is you get stakes. you get actual matches with jeopardy, because unless you're in that 8th to 5th bracket, there really is no jeopardy in any games, because it doesn't matter if you finish first, because every grand final is played in Sydney, so who gives a shit? And if you finish last, who cares? You're just going to be in the same league and you're going to have a new season. It's going to start fresh. Whereas as soon as you implement promotion relegation, there is stakes to every single game now, pretty much, which just adds so much more watchability and so much more interest and opportunities for people to be drawn into games and drawn into clubs and become a part of the culture. I think eventually it should be 16 teams in the second division, potentially extending out to 20, and then 16 teams at a minimum in the first division. To me, just broadly speaking, the A-League eventually should have 16 at a minimum. Let's go with 16 for now. 2 places promotion, bottom 2 go down with a third, bottom 2 go down, third place, bottom 2 go down, third place playoff, like they do in the Bundesliga, or third bottom goes into a playoff like they do in the Bundesliga. And I would keep finals. I would keep finals. Or would I keep finals? I don't know. I think if you get rid of finals, you need to properly market the Champions League, the Asian Champions League. You need to properly make sure that it is that it is a household or a household known thing, that the casual fans know what the Asian Champions League is and they understand it and they understand the jeopardy behind it and they understand the importance behind it. If you're going to get rid of finals. If you're going to keep finals, I'd keep the final structure the way it is. Second division, I would have top 2 go up automatically, and then I'd have third to sixth. To playoff, third versus sixth, 2-legged, fourth versus fifth, 2-legged, and then the winners I'll go third versus sixth, 1 leg. How would I do it? Yeah, I just have 3 2-legged ties, so you play 6 games. That's alright, you can play 6 games. Yeah, that's how I would do it. And then how you decipher who goes into the second division, who knows? Because can you feasibly, this is a great question to ask, and this is a great question to be answered. I wish someone could answer it. Is there a feasible way to have a national football pyramid? I don't think there is, right? And I think it's not feasible to have a national third division. Thinking about it more, I think a couple of maybe a while ago on this podcast I may have said it, or I was just thinking about it and didn't say it on the podcast, or said it to someone else. Thinking about it now, I don't think it's feasible to have a national third division. So how you split it up in terms of who goes down from the second division to the third division, I don't know. To me, you got to have because you got to have representation. Maybe you don't have to have representation throughout the whole country, because that just adds quotas, and that the integrity of the league's finished by that point. But I don't know. Could you have a national third division? Probably not. But how does it work if a team from Victoria goes up, but no team from Victoria goes down? So does that next league have 1 less team, or does the promotion from the 5th division, from the 4th division, dictate who goes into the 3rd division, or like the 5th division who goes into the 4th division? Who knows, right? I guess that's why I'm doing this podcast, not sitting in the boardroom of the FA, right? But as a whole, second division, tick. Massive tick. Get the established clubs back in a professional football pyramid, for God's sake. Because to me, arguably, one of the biggest mistakes, this could be a bold call. This is a bold call. And I'm going to say it now without really thinking about it, but one of the biggest mistakes Australian football could ever have done is create new teams when you already have existing clubs with existing fan bases, with existing histories, with existing foundations of being a well-run club to some regard. And this goes back to what I spoke about last week about football fan culture, right? You need I don't know how to I don't know how to say this without me seeming like I hate the A League, which I don't, and I support a team in the A League, right? But what you get when you create new clubs and have them be the only professional clubs is that you remove the establishment, you create a new establishment. And that new establishment needs to be, especially when we're in a time where sports is so saturated, you've got sport literally on every single day. Like every single day, there is something on that you can watch, right? When you create a new establishment in this day and age, you need to ensure that it is absolutely perfect. Otherwise, people will go to different markets. People would stop going because they have alternatives now. Back in the 70s and the 80s, in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, people didn't really have alternatives. People didn't really have alternatives other than going to games. And if you didn't go to the games, what else would you do, right? Whereas now, if you don't like something or if something isn't for you, you can switch it off like that. And that is why a new establishment needs to be absolutely perfect in order to keep those fans. What you had with the old NSL teams, I understand the way that some of the clubs run was a disgrace, and some of the ways that they were run were extremely poor, and the league was run extremely poor at times. But what you had with those teams is that you had a pre-built establishment that had people going because they love the club and they felt identity with the club. You can say it is you can say it's an ethnic-based thing. Sure, you have South Melbourne, Hellas, you have Melbourne, Croatia, you have Sydney, Croatia, etc., right? But you need people to identify with clubs in order for them to keep going back. What is Melbourne City's identity? Who are they what are they? What are Melbourne Victory? What is it? What club? Who is it for? What do they represent? What are their ideals or ideologies even? What are their rationales within their business practices? Who are they? In England, the clubs are steeped in history. Absolutely steeped in history. From location to reputation to honours to everything. And because you could get away with it in the 40s and the 30s and the 50s, they had that time to flourish and become what they are now. I understand. I understand. If you grew up a kilometre away from South Melbourne but you're Croatian, you're probably not going to go watch South Melbourne. I get that. I get it. That is why the implementation of, I was going to call them neutral clubs, non-ethnic based clubs, or no clubs that have direct ties to a group, religion, ethnicity, race, country, are good in parts. However, I know a lot of people that if South Melbourne were the team that were brought into the A-League instead of Melbourne Victory, would have stuck by South Melbourne and would have kept going to games forever because that is their club. However, I do agree. People who didn't support South Melbourne because they were Greek or whatever supported Melbourne Victory, and they wouldn't have supported South if they were in the A-League because they don't identify with them, but they support Melbourne Victory because they identify with Melbourne Victory because they're from Melbourne. I get that. I 100% get it. That's why I think the blending of both types of clubs is good. Is good for the league. It's going to be good for the league because you're going to see. Hopefully this time in 10 years from now, I'm going to be going to, on a Saturday night at Amy Park, I'm going to be going to a sold out game between Melbourne Victory and South Melbourne. First versus fifth. Something like that, right? That is what I want to go. That is my vision, like I'm fucking in charge. That is what I see the futuristic. That's what I see the future of the A-League being, in a sense. It's two different clubs with two different unique histories, with two different identities, two different supporter bases, battling it out and having them integrate within each other. I think it'd be great. I think it'd be really cool. I think it'd be really, really cool because you have narratives. Bro, the first time South Melbourne versus Melbourne Victory in a competitive game that isn't a cup game, the first competitive league game between Melbourne Victory and South Melbourne, or Melbourne Victory versus Melbourne Knights, or Melbourne Victory versus Heidelberg, or Melbourne City versus South, etc. You know what I mean? Is going to be unreal. It's going to be great. The narratives, the storylines around it is going to be sick because, I mean, Sydney are the most successful club in the league, in the country, right? So Sydney are the most successful club in the country. They've got what, 4 championships, right? So if I quickly bring up the honours of, by the way, I'm just using South Melbourne as an example because firstly I'm Greek, secondly my dad went to South Melbourne and I hear about them a lot, right? And they're probably maybe the most famous or well-known non-A-League club in the country. Anyway, you could say, you could say, what am I doing here? Yeah, you can say, oh, they're like Sydney are the most successful club in the country with four premierships, but then the first time they versus South, the narrative is, yeah, they may have 4 premierships in the A-League, but we've got 4 championships in the NSL. So you're not the most successful. We are, or something like that. Narratives like that. You know what I mean? Like narratives like that. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that where they can kind of play off 2 different histories, 2 different organisations, 2 different leagues, and play off the history and the narratives around that. That is what will spark interest back into the A-League, in my opinion, anyway. Yeah, that is something that I'm very excited to see. Hopefully, it comes sooner rather than later. I understand the fact that they probably do need to. I understand that they do probably need to kind of become an actual thing. That's why I agree promotion relegation shouldn't be implemented straight away. I agree. They should become their own thing and then become promotion relegation and get clubs like South, Apia, Marconi, etc., into the leagues. And then you have all those narratives to play off, all those storylines, all that history, 2 fan bases going against each other. It's going to be great. It's going to be really, really cool eventually. Hopefully sooner rather than later. But anyway, I digress. Let's move on.